adventures.
Hey guys, it's Chuke here from Chuke's Outdoor Adventures. Well, I wanted to talk about an urban legend that might not be such a legend, especially here in Alaska. This is my Remington 870 12 gauge. This is the shotgun that I hunt ducks with. For bear protection, I like the Mossberg pumps, but for duck hunting, I like a good Wingmaster. I like these 870s for shooting ducks. Now, not as many people hunt ducks and waterfowl in Alaska as they do the lower 48. We've got a smaller population of duck hunters, but it is very enjoyable. Go out with Chuck and we'll just get a few ducks, and it's just wonderful. Now, one thing is we typically start hunting the 1st of September, and there are still bears around. I have seen bear scat and signs of bear in the areas that we hunt ducks, and I've always wondered, you know, a couple times I brought a pistol, but pretty much I just bring this, and I've talked to duck hunters. I specifically remember talking to duck hunters and being like, man, well, you know, what if I come upon a brown bear? Is this with birdshot going to work? And the answer I got was like, oh yeah, duck hunters have absolutely killed brown bears. You know, you got to do it at point blank range, but you look at the, you know, the muzzle velocity and all that shot. I mean, it's just going to turn whatever is right in front of that barrel into cheeseburger. And, you know, and, yeah, I absolutely have also read that in forums. Supposedly there have been Alaskans that have ran into brown bears while duck hunting. All they had was some, you know, shot, you know, number 5, whatever, double-aught, and it got the job done. But of course you have to be at point blank range. It reminds me of the story of the guy. He was a Swedish man, and I always get people commenting there's not polar bears in Sweden, Chuke. But he was hunting, or he was going out on this expedition on this archipelago island that they share, you know, with Iceland. So there was polar bears there, and the polar bear was stalking him, and he got really bad frostbite on his hands because he held his .44 Magnum out for a very long time, and he waited until the bear was just like at almost point blank range before he fired and killed the polar bear. So that's what you would have to do with a shotgun. You would have to make sure it was right in front of that barrel, because if you shot it from, you know, 20 yards away, 10 yards away even, it's not going to do much damage except make the bear mad. I heard a story of this one guy. He was with a group and they were all unloading on a brown bear. Oh, it was a black bear with 22s from across a river, and it was just like impacting on the skin, not having much effect. Although this article does talk about one of the biggest bears ever taken, and I believe it was a polar bear, and this was the one in Canada, was taken by an old lady who had a 22 long rifle. So maybe it's all about shot placement. But shout out to Doug Crabtree for sending this article in, and remember, you can always go to my website or email me, and I really appreciate all these articles. It's a lot of interesting stuff. So this is from the cowboystatedaily.com, and it came out December 17th, so just a few days ago. Story of birdshot dropping charging grizzly seems unbelievable, Wyoming hunters say. You don't say. It does seem unbelievable because this guy did it with a .410 shotgun. Now that is pretty interesting. You know, .410 obviously a lot smaller than a 12 gauge. So a 12 gauge people might be able to understand, well, if you're very close, I could see the 12 gauge taking out a brown bear, or grizzly as they call them in the lower 48. Only on the coast do we call them brown bears. We have grizzlies too, but those are interior. So this happened in Montana in 2003, according to news reports of the time. The story is still circulating and causing jaws to drop. So against all odds, the load of birdshot fired by James Beeman of 14, Montana, went right up the nose of the 350-pound female grizzly that charged him. Only 2 pellets penetrated all the way into the bear's brain, instantly killing it, according to the account. So this is different than what I am talking about, where I'm just talking about the damage of all the muzzle velocity and all those pellets at once, just making a big blast inches in front of the muzzle or point blank range, just shredding a bear in the head, that would do the job. This was just firing pellets from a 410, and he got lucky, and a couple of the BBs went up through the nose into the brain. So that is very lucky. So I was surprised. And what was cool is Garrett Kalowski from Cody, Wyoming, was interviewed, and he said, "I'm glad it worked out for him, but that's insane." Now that name might sound familiar because this is the guy I interviewed a few weeks back who did stop a charging brown bear from just feet away, or Grizzly, sorry, with his Glock 20 10 millimeter and 200 grain hard cast. So that was a really cool story. Check that out if you haven't heard that. Noted Wyoming outdoorsman Paul Ehrlich carries a pistol capable of firing 410 shot shells in the backcountry. He told Cowboy State Daily he was floored to learn that a load of birdshot from a 410 stopped a grizzly. So he has a Taurus Judge. I have a Taurus Judge. I am very fond of that revolver. I think it's great. He talks about the, the 45 Colt round being better, and I think a really hot loaded Buffalo Bore Colt 45 Colt round is good, but you got to remember the story from Kodiak that also happened this summer. But this was this bear was over twice the size of this bear. A Kodiak brown bear broke into this guy's house. He was like smoking some meat. It got in the house, and the guy shot it several times with his 45 Colt. Now, sometimes I call it long Colt. People get angry with me when I say that. Even though the box says LC or long Colt sometimes, we'll just call it 45 Colt. He shot it, and he even admitted it wasn't enough for this 1,000-pound brown bear, because it was still, ripping around. I guess it was licking its wounds. Didn't die, and then his neighbor came over with a 12 gauge, and with one slug, got it right under the jaw, obviously up into the brain, and killed the 1,000-pound brown bear with one 12 gauge slug. So I've always said 12 gauge slug is the best defense against a very large bear. But I will say that the bird shot, maybe you've only got number 5 shot, it will work, but you got to be really close. This guy, he just got so lucky. So he was checking on his chicken coop. He heard a commotion in his chicken coop. So this was first reported in 2003 by the Daily Interlake, a western Montana newspaper. So commotion from the chicken coop outside his rural home at 4 a.m. He comes running around the corner thinking it was a skunk. He's got his 410 shotgun. It was a bolt action. So it was loaded with one 7.5, number 7 bird shot. But instead of a skunk, he saw 2 grizzly cubs. He was like, oh man. And then Mama Grizzly dropped the chicken she was holding and just charged him from 15 feet away. So by the time he was able to fire his shotgun from the hip, the bear's nose was about, okay, so it was only 3 feet away. So that's fair. It almost was point blank. So this makes more sense now. I thought it was farther. 3 feet away from the gun's muzzle, he fired. The bear fell dead at his feet. 2 of the pellets made it into the brain, and just, I wonder if the blast alone kind of just knocked it out, and then those pellets killed it, because you can kill a bear, and many times it will kill you before it dies of its wounds, because it's still going to be kicking. So, man, shot from the hip, very cool. And then it talked about hard cast bullets, and talked about the the Taurus Judge and the 45 long Colt ammunition, with the lead bullets and everything. But like I said, I like a 10 millimeter because it's semi-auto. But great story, and shout out to the Cowboy State Daily.com newspaper. For once, I'm not reading an article that's saying, oh, remember to always carry bear spray, firearms don't work, because the other news outlets have been doing that since this summer. I believe it is an actual narrative that they are using. They don't want anybody to be armed. I'm convinced of that. And the news outlets will pick it up, and then you'll see all these comments and ads, even from officials, wildlife officials, and so-called experts, and these outdoor magazines saying, oh yeah, bear spray only, don't carry a firearm. So Garrett Kalowski said himself that if he would have had the bear spray, if we had used that bear spray he had on him, that charging bear up close would have went right through it and it would have got him. So stay prepared, use firearms. But if you are duck hunting, fun fact, you can use your shotgun, but it's going to have to be at very close range if you only have birdshot. Some people may carry some slugs, but it depends on what kind of choke you have too, so you got to consider that. But thanks for tuning in, guys. I will have a video on the Ruger LC carbine and 10mm up tomorrow morning. Appreciate you all. It's Chuke, your friend in the field.
My name is Chuke. I like to trade my guns just for fun, but now I have none. Oh, look, get shot by a bear, but I don't care. I got a 10mm. Chuke's Outdoor Adventures. Watch your balls die every time, guaranteed.